Welcome to our Metal Reactions channel. I'm Brad.
I'm Alena.
We've been having a great time taking a journey through metal with you and each other.
If you enjoy our videos and would like to support us, you can do so on Patreon.
It's €1 and will help us to put out more frequent and better quality videos. So we are back with some more Nightwish. We had a vote on Patreon as to which song to do next, and The Poet and the Pendulum was the winning vote. So the Nightwish army has across the board let us know at least briefly what the song's about. So being Thomas and the firing of Taya and whatever emotions came along with that, as well as potentially being in love with Taya. So let's see what happens.
Okay.
There's a playlist of all our other Nightwish songs if you'd like to watch them in the order that we reacted to them.
impressive, wasn't it? Like the beginning.
Unexpected and very cool.
Yeah, who was singing at the beginning? I don't think it was her.
I don't think so.
I think it was like a young male voice, like a boy's voice.
I honestly don't even know. I did hear it and think this doesn't sound like Floor.
No, that sounds like a guy singing. And it was just super clean, like, you know, from the church choir, something like that. And it's interesting how the song starts with the end. Yeah.
But so that other voice, was that first little piece? So in we've got the lyrics on the side here. It says "White Lands of Empathica." Was that bit?
Yeah, I think so. But I mean, remember how we heard about in the Dead Poets poem, and there was this voice of a child in the background. So I think it's kind of that voice.
Could be
coming back. Yeah, and then it just went, you know, from very, very calm to very, very passionate part.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that part. The way that the song started out, I thought it was going to be a much like lighter, softer song. And then, yeah, I was pleasantly surprised when it got like so into it there. You know, very, very nice, like headbangable piece to the song there.
Yeah, with the guitars.
And the drumming, there was some nice double bass going there.
Yeah, and I like how in the chorus when Floor sings, and then there is like sort of in the background the Marco's voice, right? Which adds like a tone to it.
Another layer there.
Yeah, it's a volume. This is super nice. I don't think I've heard it before, to be honest.
I definitely haven't.
Yeah, I would have enjoyed it.
Okay, so I see the song is broken down into sections here. So we've done 1 and 2 being home. That's the other one we finished here. So I'll probably just pause along after each section here.
Okay, yeah.
So now we're going into 3, the Pacific.
Yep.
So afraid, being raped again and again and again. I know I will die alone, but loved. You live long enough to hear the sound of guns.
I know something's about to happen, so I didn't want to pause too late there, but okay, so that was 3 Pacific. Completely different change there.
Yeah, there were 2 changes in this one piece.
Yeah, for like the first part and then the quoted part afterwards, but
yeah.
So yeah, like the first bit, very just like vocal operatic, or sort of.
Yeah.
And then I really enjoyed where it went more orchestral. It was with like...
before this sort of the child's voice.
I don't know if it's like tubes of some sort that are playing.
I wouldn't know.
But that was a really cool, interesting sound. And yeah, like captivating. It's like got my full attention.
I like how in the background, so in the first part there was this like waves of the ocean, very calm and soothing, and then when it went to this more orchestral part, it sort of became like a storm in the background. Also, like those pictures in the background.
I actually didn't notice that. I saw the waves in the beginning, like the calm, like peaceful, but I missed the storm part. So it's a good observation there. Okay. I think something big's about to happen. So I'll just obviously go back 10 seconds, yeah?
Now I only have 3 minutes. Count. I just wish the tide would catch me first. Give me a death I always longed for.
Well, it was impressive.
Yeah, I agree.
There are again like so many changes.
It's so epic. It's like I've mentioned before, but I love it. A song like this, and normally a long song like this, they're able to do it, but where they just blur the line between what would be like music and theatre, or it's
it's the whole performance.
This is like a play. You're watching a play here. You're not just watching a song.
Yeah, let's finish it.
And 1,000 pages of erased text.
Wow.
Wow, yeah, I'm super impressed. I think it's the most impressive song that we've heard so far.
It's right up there. I was actually thinking as well, like, probably...
Out of all the Nightwish songs, yeah, probably this one is the most complicated and layered. And you know how in all the other songs we always like talk about Flora's voice and how it's the central piece of all the performance. Like in this song, I can't say that because there are so many things there that like equally great, you know.
And even when you talk about Floor's voice, well, which one? Because there's multiple singing styles in here.
Yeah, but also like the whole atmosphere is not just created by the voice, and not just her voice. But they're like all. It seems like all of them got a chance to sing at some point.
Yeah, like Marco had his own very distinct time by himself as well,
and then Thomas also was singing there, I think.
When that happened, I was wondering, does he even have a microphone there? Is he just singing along because it's his story? Like, I don't even know if he had a microphone.
I don't know. I think, you could hear someone's voice there. Okay. So, yeah. And the instruments, like, that was just amazing.
It's a whole other world there as well. There's so much to dissect.
Yeah. I don't know how are we going to do that? It's super long.
I was going to say the beginning sounds as good a place as any, but is it the beginning or is it the end?
I don't know.
Because it starts off with the end, which is really cool. And I haven't come across this before. Maybe, I mean, you read a lot more than me, so maybe you've come across places where they start with the end and end with the beginning.
Well, I mean, I think it's not unusual to kind of mix the timeline, and it's like in films it happens all the time when they show bits and pieces, and then sort of after looking through all of them you see what was the order. You make like this connection in your head. I
think that's a bit different. So I mean, like Christopher Nolan, for example, will mess around entirely with the order of things, but that's like all over the place. And they're like Christopher Nolan will actually change the sequential order of things, whereas here, I think it is still chronologically in order.
Backwards.
So you think it's backwards?
I think it's backwards. Or maybe it's just a circular sort of thing. So it's just it just can, this loop can go on forever. So it doesn't matter where it's the end or the beginning.
I thought it was actually in order. But it's just playing on the fact that we're starting at the end of the previous thing, being life with Taya, and then I think it's working through the progression of dealing with the aftermath of this end of a relationship. Well, I say relationship like professional relationship / friendship or whatever else there may be there, and then I think it's this whole like grieving process, in sequential order, but. When we get to the beginning, I think it's the beginning then of something new. So like we have the end of one thing and we have the beginning of something new, and I think this is just the mental turmoil that goes on in between those two pieces of time.
Maybe.
I could be wrong, but
well, I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't like what you said about that this song was written on like upon this event happening, upon Terry leaving the band, but I mean, I wouldn't just explain the whole song by this personal event, because this song is much broader than just this, I think. And because again, it's about feelings and emotions. For different people, it can mean different things. So I would just explain it generally, not in connection to the specific thing happening.
Okay.
Or at least try to get from it like what it has to say. I don't think it just has to offer like this, it happened and that's what I felt about this specific thing. There are so many references in the song. When we start, so when they're singing, you can't see the names of those parts. It's only the lyrics that's here. Right? Yeah. So, for example, White Lens of Empathica, I think it's a reference to something.
Yeah, that did seem quite specific. Let's just actually Google that quick. You can talk while I Google.
So I was actually trying to see, because it started with the end and then it was saying the beginning. I was trying to see if the backwards looking at it is actually working, and I think it can also work.
Okay, so I see here the White Lands of Empathica, Dark Tower.
Oh, that's the. okay, I didn't read the book. So that's related to the Stephen King novels.
Okay.
I've heard they're really good. I've only seen the film.
I haven't read them.
Well, I haven't either. I have seen the film, but it's not that great either. So probably it's not gonna help. Well, I mean, from the film, I only remember that there were, because it's saying about the cold world, there was this part in the film that when the character, like this main character by Idris Elba, he appears in this world where everything is covered with snow, but it looks like the past of some of our civilization, because you can see there like the attractions, the roller coasters, the broken ones and lying around, something like this. So, you know, like the whole century ended and then it was just covered with snow. So what stands out to me, so that this whole piece at the beginning is just blank. Basically, you can associate this whole thing with a white color. You know, because it says about innocence, white lens, Empathica goes well with that, I think. And also like the death, it's basically the absence of everything. So it's this silence, innocence, and white space. So, and to me, it's actually like the end of this song.
Okay, I tell you what, let's run through our, just high level, run through our respective timelines, and then we can plug in the details afterwards. So if are you wanting to do this then backwards, tell the story backwards, or do you want to start at the bottom and tell your story forwards?
I don't know. Oh, well, I mean, whatever. Whichever.
Take your pick, because my story goes the other direction too.
Okay, let me tell you my story. So let's go to the bottom of it.
Okay.
The bottom of it. So the beginning, and then so this part is called Mother and Father. Well, this reminds me of like the wayward son that comes back to mother and father, but also if we take it like the beginning,
the prodigal son, biblical.
Yeah. So this is one association, but then if it's just the beginning, so it's basically the person being born, the poet being born, and so he's in the home of mother and father, and I think it was the floor was singing this piece. So it's about motherly love and acceptance and all those like beauty. And I like this reference to the ocean because I remember in the Dead Boys poem that was also like the ocean was a big part of that a song, which I remember this oceanly song, Soul. So
lonely soul.
Yeah, so but it's also ocean wide and rich and that has like so much to give to the world.
Yeah.
And then this mother singing that whatever happens in this world, but it already has this premonition that the blade will keep on descending, so that the poet is bound to like to this bad fortune or like the bad end. You know, it's always upon his head, and in the end it's gonna end with
fate.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, and then if we go up this piece, so it seems like there was a poet and then he went into the world, and then this happened. Well, we kind of skipped this part where there was just this life before this.
Okay.
And here, Dark Passion Play, I think it's the name of the album where the song is from, actually. Because Dark Passion Play, yeah, I know definitely it's the album name.
Okay.
So
what, a Nightwish album?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I didn't know that.
So it's the name of the album, I think. Goodness, I hope I'm not wrong.
Talk, I'll search.
And here this compassion with the Passion of the Christ, I think.
6th studio album, yes.
2007. Yeah, see, it's the first song in that album.
All right. Okay.
Okay, so it's connected. That's good.
Okay.
So here there is this, I think this whole piece is just sort of rewritten Passion of the Poet instead of Passion of the Christ. And that's why it's called Basic Dark Passion. But here are those who are condemning the poet and betraying him and like torturing him are the friends and the whole cruel world around. But here he's actually not comparing him to the Christ, because the poet like still realizes that he's not like an innocent soul. You see, because he's saying second robber on the right of Christ. So he's not like comparing to the Christ, but I think he's comparing to one of those people that died on the cross.
Second robber on the right of Christ. Don't they say something like that when they talk about what's that famous painting? The Last Supper with Judas. Wasn't Judas like two?
But it's a robber. No, come on.
That's like, I know there was the actual men that died on the cross with Christ as well.
There are two.
Yeah.
Robbers.
So I remember that, but how many died together?
3.
3 together. So then how can you have 2? Well, was Jesus not in the middle? Was he on the side?
I don't know. You're asking me like I know.
In my head, he was in the middle. So you couldn't have someone 2 to the right of him.
Maybe they were in the circle.
I think so.
I think it's second of 2 robbers, the one that's on the right. It's not like second on the
Perhaps.
right, but the second one, the one which was on the right.
Perhaps.
But I don't really remember what was the difference, like who was on the right. I remember one was bad-mouthing Christ and the other one was not.
Okay.
But I don't know on which...
I didn't even know that.
But I don't know on which side was the one who was more compassionate, so...
Okay.
Maybe it's actually the one on the right, but I wouldn't swear on it. Yeah, so in here, like, I think that basically this dark passion performance is played by those that are close to the poet, and this is where this chorus starts about get away, run away, and fly away, which then goes to other parts, kind of repeating and repeating, always trying to escape. But here it's also kind of a humble nature, I think, of the poet, because he recognizes that he has this, that he's not completely honest maybe with the world.
Okay.
And basically, well, no, this kind of puzzling, because I don't understand what it means. I cannot cry because the shoulder cries more. What does that exactly?
I have an idea on that.
Okay, and what is that?
So normally, it must be a play on something. There's the English expression like the shoulder to cry on.
Yeah.
So someone's your shoulder to cry on.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if the shoulder cries more, that means the person that you would go, the person that's normally your shoulder to cry on, is crying more than you. Maybe that's Taya.
Maybe.
Because
okay, so he has to be strong, and that's why he cannot cry.
I don't know. It's about being. I don't think it's about being strong. It's just that normally, if he's in emotional turmoil, Taya would be the person that he goes to express his feelings to vent, to that shoulder to cry on. But if this in the context of Taya being fired, Taya's going through a lot more than he is. So you can't go cry on Taya's shoulder if she's even going to be even more upset than you are. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Maybe I'm completely wrong, but that's what comes to mind for me.
Well, I mean, that's a good explanation, that you can't cry because you are the one who has to be strong for another.
Well, not necessarily you're the one that has to be strong. It's just the other person going through more than you are.
Okay, I see. Okay, yeah, I like that explanation. And then possibly this forgive me thing is also for asking forgiveness of that friends. And then a whore for the cold world. So he's recognizing that he's the one betraying.
I didn't necessarily see it like that, but I don't know. I've got two schools of thought. But continue with your story, because we're on very different paths on how the song works. So.
Well, probably you're more right, because you want to connect it to the actual events happening.
You're just making your own story.
I'm just refusing to do that, because I think like art cannot be that narrow, that it can only be explained in the context of a person.
Well, think about it. Like the fans were the Nightwish army were so adamant that this is the one song that you need to have background knowledge of what happened.
Well, maybe I'm a rebel. Just seeing my own things here. But imagine, why would you like listen over and over to the song that is about something that happened?
Well, it can be both. They aren't necessarily mutually exclusive.
Obviously, this is a story of like suffering and betrayal, and like if you can't associate yourself with something like that, then probably the song would just be wasted or something. Although you can still enjoy the instruments and stuff like that.
Unlike you, many of us can enjoy songs for decades without even knowing a single word.
Oh, come on. I also have songs like that. I don't know the words, but...
Okay, but continue telling your story backwards.
Just inventing on the go. So I like this expression of a horror for the cold world. So the cold world, it's kind of painting this picture of a hostile surroundings, and you're trying to be to respond to to do what they want, basically, instead of what you want to do, instead of being honest to yourself. So this poet is opposed to the Christ figure, so he's not innocent here, and he does recognize the innocence, the non-innocence, but...
Wasn't Christ innocent, though?
What?
No, okay, that's wrong. No, that's completely wrong.
That's completely...
The whole point is that he wasn't innocent. That he was just a man. Okay. I take it back.
Okay, don't scare me here.
I can edit that out, but I won't.
And then I like how here, so there was this piece of a boy telling, reading the lines. So it sounds like, the last word that is said on the grave of someone. And it's basically this last word for the writer. It does specifically say his name, Tom.
Yeah.
So, maybe it's more personal than I think.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. I heard the exact pronunciation there. And
it's not Thomas.
It's like Tuamas or something like that.
Thomas. Okay. I'm not gonna pretend like I know how to say that. So. And it's a very, very sad last word, I would say, because it just says that he was always crying on a beautiful day. The music was too loud and didn't know when to have a silence, didn't know the place for silence, and he was just, and even the circumstances of death, it's just kind of seemed shameful, and what he left after him was just pages of erased text, so basically nothing. So all his work got lost. Yeah, so I think that's the worst that can happen to the poet, not even the physical death, but that all the art that he created is erased forever from the world. Okay, maybe this is that. I don't know. Maybe you're right. Let's go up in totally wrong order.
Number 3. The Pacific.
Yeah. So this part, I think it's a memory. It reminds of a time when it was, I think it's the meeting with that other person who was actually understanding him.
Okay.
Because it's addressed to someone, sparkle my scenery with turquoise waterfall. So it is talking to someone, and it's a very soothing picture. I remember there were those waves of the ocean.
This gave a much happier vibe than
Yeah,
rest.
of calm and like not so much
Pain.
exactly, and suffering. And it was the time when they still hoped, and when they believed they were chosen for each other, like who's under the same pale moon, whose guiding light chose you. And in this picture, it's like, as opposed to the beginning when it was all white, so here it's a more lively color, turquoise, like the color of the ocean, the deep one. And it's also like the color of his soul, I suppose, if it's compared to the ocean the ocean soul. And then I think this was read again by the child, right? So it was a boy's voice. So, yeah. And it's also like saying, he's saying about being afraid of the world and always like being on an altar, which basically poet is always on an altar because he has to express all the feelings and be always judged by the crowd. So all his art, it's only an art when it goes out to people, but they may not be that appreciative of it. So they're judging like every word that you say and every feeling that you show and every emotion, and which is super hard, and it feels like strapped to this altar and wishes. Yeah, here it even like wishes to die, and it was in. If you think about this like dark passion, so he basically here he wants to die in this moment of calmness before this like pendulum falls and he is crucified by the crowd or something like that.
But if we're going in your order, then the crucifixion's already happened.
Well, that's a memory, so you can put the going back in memory at any part.
So what, you've died and now you're having a memory?
But you know, like, I think, especially the poet, he lives through so many deaths during the life. No, seriously, because like, you have a like one cycle of art, and then something dies and you're born again and you live through something else, and then it also dies and you have to live through
You mean
that.
your artwork?
Your artwork.
Like the cycles of life of your artwork.
Exactly.
Okay.
Okay, and then we can go up.
Home. Home.
Yeah.
The long one.
So it's again, I think it's also like remembrance of better times, of the time when he had a home. So meadows of heaven and adventure-filled days. It does kind of remind me of the Dead Boys poem too. And what was the other one? The one that was to take me back. I forgot the name of the song. Okay, the other one we did. Never mind. Yeah, so, okay, so the way I see it, if we summarize this whole thing, because I've been talking for a long time. Yeah. So there was the birth, and then sort of the poet goes into the world, and then gets crucified by the crowd. Okay. And then he finds the person with whom he can share that, and still feel loved, even though he knows that his end will be very sad.
Okay.
And tragic. And then he lost again that person, because here in this verse, in this home, the poet without a rhyme, a widowed writer torn apart, so he's widowed here.
Okay.
And then it's this blank, because final like death and calmness and going to this white lens of empathica.
So instead of fade to black, you're going fade to white.
Yes. Exactly.
Okay.
Now tell me how it's the other way around.
You could be completely right, because I have no idea, but this is...
Of course I'm right, because everyone has his own understanding of the art.
Okay.
You can't judge it.
All right. So the message is what you want the message to be.
Exactly. That's what the whole art is about.
Okay.
You get your own message. If you got it, you're lucky. If you don't, then probably it's not such a good art, or you're just dumb.
Okay, so for me, I'm just taking it very literally as the events
Okay.
as we've explained. So this whiteout that we're saying, I'm thinking is the end of now this part of this journey with Taya, right? So this is now the end of that stage of life. That's what the end is.
Okay.
Then I'm seeing this as the emotional roller coaster, or the emotional journey he goes through to when this happens, to at the end being the point where he's now ready to start the next chapter of his life, and he's over these events. So home is now the being down and out, and like this was the first heavy piece, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
So probably a lot of anger and confusion, and just this is just the whole negative cycle of what happens after the friendship, whatever, with Taya ends.
Okay.
Okay, so we touched on the bit about the shoulder crying.
Okay.
Then there was the other bit straight after that. It says, "I cannot die, I, a whore for the cold world." I had two trains of thought here that I wasn't quite sure what it was being. So the first one was because I think throughout the song, not only is he talking about Taya perhaps, but I think he's talking about the fans' reaction to him, perhaps blaming him for everything, right? So I'm seeing this as perhaps the cold world seeing him as a whore, being just, it was his fault. It was his romantic feelings for Taya that has now caused all of this to happen. So,
Okay.
he's to blame. That was one train of thought. Another train of thought could just be in a more generalized sort of artist. If you're a performer, like you're just performing, you're whoring yourself out to the world.
Yeah. Okay. That was kind of what I was thinking. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm not entirely sure which way he's going there. But etc. So this is all just the negativity. The part where we probably agree, and probably because it's in the middle of 5, so regardless of which way you go, it's in the middle.
Always in the right place.
So this Pacific is definitely a change of mood, happier feelings, at least the beginning half of it. Mm-hmm. So probably a memory starting off well, but then I think this memory or dream is maybe starting to turn into a nightmare as it goes on. Mm-hmm. Because it becomes more and more negative. Then one thought I had with this is probably completely wrong, because I don't know, it doesn't seem to fit in with the song at all. But when it was talking about Pacific, and then it starts talking about the sounds of guns, all I could think of was like the Pacific War, like World War II. And it's also having this feeling of like flashbacks and stuff. So I was thinking of like PTSD, exactly.
Okay.
So I don't know. That's the best I can come up with as to why that's evolving into that way. Then we'll get to number 4. So this is now that dark passion play. To me, this is very clearly resurrection of Christ, and so I'm seeing this as now the death of Thomas. So he's gone through all of this emotional turmoil. Mm-hmm. Now he's going to get to the part where he's going to die and be reborn, at least emotionally. So this is now the end of all that, the process of his death, and then the ending of all these negative feelings. So that when we come to 5, mother and father, he's now in a safe and happy place with family, specifically mother and father, not everyone else who's been criticizing him and blaming him. And now we have... and also, I noticed Floor sang this part specifically, "Be Still My Son." I think that was intentional to be the mother's voice. Mm-hmm. So I think this is now just being at home, and his mother particularly, but father as well. Also, mother comes before father. So I think particularly mother, but father as well. Mm-hmm. Basically just reassuring him, building him back up to be able to face the world. And like, for example, it says, "The blade will keep on descending. All you need is to feel my love." So she's saying, like, it's not going to go away. Like, the people that were criticizing you and having a go at you before, they're still going to be having a go at you now. That's not going to stop. So the outside events don't change. but how you handle them, your feelings towards it, how strong you are inside and what you focus on. That's what you can change and focus on.
Okay.
And then we get to the beginning, i.e. the end. But the beginning now he's gone through this whole cycle of grievance and acceptance and becoming stronger and built up, and now he can continue his life again.
Okay.
But who knows?
Okay. But basically what, like the separate part, if we describe the separate parts, we agree on the meaning of the separate parts, or we just like sort of shuffle the order to our understanding.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, but your explanation like follows well with what really happened. I suppose.
Okay. Anything else to add?
Did you enjoy it?
Yeah, that was one of the best Nightwish songs I've seen. I would probably say between this and Song of Myself, I haven't quite decided, but
I think this one's better, by far. I think it's more, because it's more personal, then you can sort of feel more emotion from this song.
What's quite cool, I mean, I forget exactly how many Nightwish songs we've done now, but we must be up around like 7 to 10 or something like that. I don't know, maybe 7.
6, 7, yeah. Okay.
So if you hear that many songs, and it's not like we were hearing small songs. I mean, we were hearing like they're big time songs. And to hear a song and still be like so surprised, we're both really surprised and shocked and like blown away. Like that's pretty impressive. That someone can do that still.
Definitely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, great suggestion. Thanks for the vote, everyone in Patreon. And we'll see you again soon for some more Nightwish.
Yeah, thank you for watching this super long video.
If you made it to the end, let me know in the comments. This is a little test. I'm curious to see who actually watched however long this ends up being, like 45, 50 minutes or something. Please let me know who are the ultras here. Bye.
Bye.